Alara knelt on the cold marble floor of the dressing room, her fingers trembling as she pinned the hem of the trousers. The fabric was cheap, synthetic garbage that Serena tried to pass off as Italian silk, but Alara treated it with the reverence of a master. Jax looked down at her with eyes devoid of the love they once held. He kicked his leg out sharply, his polished shoe striking Alara's shoulder. "Watch it. You pricked me. You clumsy idiot. Is this how you support my career? By trying to cripple me before the gala?" Alara swallowed the pain radiating through her shoulder, keeping her head bowed. "I'm sorry. Jax. The fabric. It's stiff. It doesn't drape naturally. I'm trying to make you look your best." Jax scoffed, grabbing his reflection in the full-length mirror. He adjusted his collar, preening like a peacock. "I always look my best. It's you who makes me look cheap. Look at you. Dust on your knees. Pins in your mouth. You look like a servant." The heavy oak doors swung open with a theatrical bang. Serena strutted in, trailing a scent of overpowering perfume and arrogance. She was draped in furs, holding a glass of champagne, looking at Alara like one would look at a cockroach on a wedding cake. Serena took a sip of champagne and smirked. "Still letting the help touch you. Jax, I thought we discussed upgrading your image." Jax immediately changed his demeanor, his face melting into a sycophantic smile as he turned to Serena. "Babe, I was just telling her to leave. She's suffocating me. Clinging on like a bad habit." Alara stood up, her hands clenching the measuring tape until her knuckles turned white. "Clinging, Jax. I worked 3 jobs to pay for your modeling classes. I sewed your portfolios by hand till my fingers bled. We've been together for 5 years. Serena laughed, a sharp, grating sound that echoed in the sterile room. She walked over to Alara and flicked the measuring tape from her hand. 5 years of mediocrity. Look around. Little mouse. This is the big leagues. Jax is the face of Serena Couture now. He needs a queen, not a seamstress who smells like mothballs." Jax stepped beside Serena, sliding his arm around her waist, looking at Alara with pure disdain. "It's over. Alara. Serena can give me the cover of Vogue. You can only give me..." "What adjusted hems get out? And leave the pins. They're worth more than your outfit." Alara stared at him, her heart shattering not into sorrow, but into a cold, hard dust. "You're making a mistake. Jax. That suit, it doesn't fit your structure. Without my adjustments, everyone will see your left shoulder is lower than your right. You'll look unbalanced." Serena's eyes flashed with rage. She stepped forward and splashed the remaining champagne directly into Alara's face. The cold, sticky liquid stung Alara's eyes, dripping down her worn-out blouse. Serena hissed, leaning close to Alara's ear. "Get out. Before I call security to drag you out by your hair. And if I see you near the fashion district again, I'll make sure you never hold a needle in this city again." Jax laughed, wiping a speck of champagne from his lapel, completely ignoring Alara's humiliation. "Go on. Alara. You heard the lady. You're ruining the vibe." Alara wiped the alcohol from her eyes. She didn't cry, She didn't scream. She looked at the man she sacrificed everything for. Then at the woman who bought him like a pet. She turned around and walked to the door, the sound of their mocking laughter following her like a curse. Outside, the sky broke open. Heavy rain poured down instantly, soaking her to the bone within seconds. She stood on the curb, shivering, watching a massive billboard light up across the street. It was Jax's face, smiling that fake smile, with the caption, "The perfect man wears Serena." Alara gripped the only thing she had managed to keep in her pocket, a small, golden thimble that belonged to her grandmother. The rain washed away the champagne, but the burning hatred in her chest only grew hotter. They thought they stripped her of everything. They didn't know. They just cut the only thread holding back the monster. Alara stood in the sterile, white lobby of the National Design Guild, clutching a brown paper envelope against her chest. Her clothes were still damp from the rain, contrasting sharply with the polished marble floors and the sharply dressed receptionist. The receptionist, an older woman with glasses on a chain, peered closely at the sketch Alara had slid across the counter. Her eyes widened. This structure. This is the invisible seam technique. I haven't seen this since the old masters in Milan. You drew this. Alara nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest for the first time in days. Yes. I need to register for the upcoming New Voices showcase. I don't have a sponsor, but the rules say if the work is exceptional, I can enter as an independent. The receptionist smiled, reaching for the official stamp. Honey, if you can sew like you draw, you don't need a sponsor. This is genius. Let me just process your... A hand with long, crimson nails slammed down onto the counter, snatching the sketch away before the stamp could touch the paper. Serena stood there, looking immaculate in a white trench coat, her lips curled in a sneer. Jax was right behind her, carrying her shopping bags like a glorified pack mule. Serena laughed, waving the sketch in the air like a piece of trash. Genius. Is that what we're calling theft these days? I was wondering where my rejected drafts went. I must have thrown them in the bin, and this rat fished them out. Alara stepped forward, her voice shaking with adrenaline. That's a lie. You don't even know how to hold a pencil. Serena. Check the signature. Check the date on the paper. Jack stepped in between them, using his height to intimidate Alara. He looked at the receptionist with his best, charming celebrity smile. I'm sorry about this. My ex-girlfriend is mentally unstable. She's been stalking us. She's obsessed with Serena's talent. She likely traced these from Serena's private studio while she was cleaning my apartment. The receptionist looked between the famous model and the soaking wet, desperate woman. The choice was obvious. She pulled the stamp back, her face hardening. Miss, we don't tolerate plagiarism here. Please leave. Alara felt the walls closing in. No, look at the details. Ask her about the fabric tension on the collar. Ask her. She reached out to grab her sketch back from Serena. Serena shrieked theatrically, as if Alara had stabbed her. Security, she's attacking me. 2 burly guards materialized instantly, grabbing Alara by her arms and dragging her back. Serena didn't stop there. She dropped the sketch onto the floor. Correction. She dropped the entire envelope of Alara's life work onto the floor. Then, she looked Alara dead in the eye and ground her sharp stiletto heel into the paper. twisting it until the sketches were nothing but torn. Dirty confetti. Ilara screamed. "Stop. That's everything I have." Jax chuckled, shaking his head as if disappointed. "You're embarrassing yourself. Ilara. If you needed money that bad, you should have just begged." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled $10 bill, and flicked it at her. The bill fluttered down and landed on the ruined sketches. "Here. Buy yourself a sandwich and disappear." Serena leaned over the counter, smiling sweetly at the receptionist. "Ban her from the system. If I see her name on any registry in this city, I'll pull my funding for the guild." "Understood." The receptionist nodded vigorously, typing rapidly. "Done. Miss Serena. She's blacklisted. Permanent ban." The guards dragged Ilara towards the glass doors. She scraped her heels against the floor, her eyes locked on the shredded remains of her dreams, and the man she once loved laughing at her misery. As they threw her out onto the concrete sidewalk, Ilara landed hard on her hands. A sharp pain shot through her right wrist, her sewing hand. She gasped, clutching it to her chest. Jax walked out a moment later, opening an umbrella for Serena. He paused, looking down at Ilara curled up on the ground. "Do yourself a favor," he said, his voice devoid of any warmth. "Find a factory job. Sewing buttons is all you're good for." Ilara watched their limousine drive away, splashing dirty puddle water over her for the second time. She looked down at her swelling wrist, and the $10 bill stuck to her shoe. The despair was gone. In its place, a cold, mechanical calculation began to whir in her mind. They didn't just kill her career, they tried to kill her hands. And for that, she wouldn't just beat them. She would dismantle them, stitch by stitch. The Sapphire Gala hummed with the murmur of the city's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast a fracturing light over the runway where Jax posed, turning left and right to show off the midnight blue tuxedo. Serena stood at the microphone, basking in the applause, clutching a glass of champagne as if it were a scepter. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight isn't just about fashion. It is about perfection. And to prove that Serena Couture fits even the most demanding figures, we have a special guest. The man who owns half the city's skyline, Lord Sterling." A hush fell over the room as Lord Sterling, an elderly man with a terrifying reputation and a stiff, pained posture, ascended the stage. He was known for two things: his ruthless business acquisitions and his legendary temper. Serena gestured to Jax, who took off the bespoke jacket. "My lord, please. A masterpiece for a master." Sterling grunted, sliding his arms into the sleeves. The crowd leaned in. This was the moment. If the suit fit, Serena's stock would triple overnight. Jax smirked, whispering loud enough for the front row to hear. "Careful, old man. Don't stretch it. That silk costs more than your life support." Sterling buttoned the jacket. Immediately, his face went pale. He tried to raise his right arm to wave, but the fabric pulled tight across his chest. A visible tremor ran through his body. He gasped, clutching his shoulder, his knees buckling. Serena's smile faltered. She hissed, "Stand up straight. You're ruining the line." Sterling wheezed, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. It constricts," My breath. Jax laughed nervously, addressing the crowd. He's just overwhelmed by the quality. Give him a moment. Crash. A tray of crystal glasses shattered against the floor near the service entrance. The crowd turned, expecting a clumsy waiter. Instead, they saw a woman in a servant's uniform, her hair tied back severely, her eyes locked on the stage with the intensity of a sniper. It was Alara. Her right wrist was wrapped in a dirty bandage, but her left hand gripped a silver steak knife she had snatched from a table. Serena shrieked into the microphone. Security. It's the stalker. Stop her. She has a weapon. Alara didn't run. She marched toward the stage. 2 guards lunged at her. She ducked under one, shoved a rolling cart into the other, and vaulted onto the runway. Jack stepped forward to block her, raising his hand. Get lost. You crazy bit. Alara didn't stop. She drove her shoulder into Jax's chest, knocking him off balance. He stumbled back, tripping over his own perfect trousers, and fell hard onto his backside in front of the cameras. Alara reached Lord Sterling. The old man was suffocating, the stiff collar cutting into his windpipe. Serena grabbed Alara's arm, digging her nails in. Don't you dare touch my creation. That jacket is worth $50,000. Alara turned, her eyes cold and dead. It's a straitjacket. You idiot. With a single, fluid motion, Alara raised the steak knife. The crowd screamed. Rip. Alara didn't stab anyone. She drove the knife into the shoulder seam of the jacket precisely at the trapezius muscle and slashed downwards. The expensive Italian silk tore open. Serena screamed as if she had been stabbed herself. My suit, you ruined it. But Lord Sterling let out a massive, ragged breath. The color returned to his face instantly. He rolled his shoulder, the tension releasing. The jacket now hung loosely, ruined but liberating. Alara dropped the knife. She ignored Serena and looked directly at Sterling's shoulder. Scoliosis curvature at the T4 vertebrae. You need a bias cut on the rear panel to accommodate the bone rotation. She cut it on the grain. She was trying to break your spine to make the fabric look smooth. The room went dead silent. The only sound was the clicking of cameras capturing Jax on the floor, Serena's horrified face, and the servant girl standing over the billionaire. Sterling straightened up, shrugging off the ruined jacket. He looked at the torn seam, then at Alara. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in recognition. Who taught you to spot a T4 rotation from 50 feet away? Alara held up her bandaged wrist. Pain taught me. And 5 years of sewing for a man who never stood straight. She cast a glance at Jax, who was struggling to stand up, his pants visibly too tight in the crotch, making him walk like a duck. Serena rushed forward, grabbing the microphone. She's lying. She's a disgruntled former employee. She attacked a VIP. Arrest her. Sterling raised a hand, silencing the room. He looked at Alara, then at the ragged cut she had made. You destroyed a $50,000 suit with a steak knife in 2 seconds. Alara met his gaze, her chin high. I just saved you $1 million in spinal surgery. You're welcome. Sterling's face cracked into a rare, terrifying grin. He turned to his assistant. Get this woman a fresh coat. And get these 2 clowns off my stage. Serena's jaw dropped. My lord, but the contract. Sterling's voice boomed through the hall. The contract is void. This isn't fashion. It's torture. He turned back to Alara. What is your name? Girl. Alara ripped the waitress name tag off her uniform and threw it at Jax's feet. My name is Alara. And I'm the only one in this room who knows how to dress a king. The flashing lights of the paparazzi were blinding, but Alara didn't blink. She stood center stage, the ruined jacket in her hand, while Lord Sterling watched her with the intensity of a hawk sighting prey. Serena was trembling, her composure cracking like cheap porcelain. She lunged for the microphone. This is a setup. She planted that knife. She sabotaged the fitting backstage. I am the creative director of Serena Couture. I demand you throw this servant out. Sterling raised a single, withered finger. The room fell silent instantly. Creative director, fine. Then this should be simple. He gestured to the torn seam on his shoulder. Fix it. Serena froze. Her eyes darted around the room. My lord. Sterling's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. You claim you designed this. You claim you made it. The seam is open. There is a needle and thread in the emergency kit right there. Close the seam. Do it now, or I will bury your company before the stock market opens tomorrow. A staff member rushed forward, placing a sewing kit on a velvet stool. The needle looked like a gleaming silver spike under the spotlight. Serena approached the stool. Her hands shook violently. She picked up the needle, but she held it awkwardly, like a child holding a chopstick for the first time. She tried to thread it, but missed. Once, twice, 3 times. Sweat beaded on her forehead, melting her heavy makeup. Alara watched, crossing her arms over her chest. You're holding a size 4 embroidery needle. You need a size 9 sharp for silk. But you wouldn't know that, would you? You've never sewn a stitch in your life. Serena screamed, jamming the needle into the fabric in a panic. Shut up. I am an artist. I don't do the grunt work. Snap. Serena pulled the thread too hard. The needle snapped in half. A droplet of blood from her pricked finger fell onto the pristine white silk of the jacket. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. She had stained the king's robe. Sterling looked at the bloodstain with pure disgust. You are a fraud. Jax, sensing the sinking ship, suddenly shoved Serena aside. He stepped forward, flashing his desperate, winning smile at Alara. Elada. Baby. Please. Help her. For us. Look, I know we had a fight, but think about our future. You're the genius here. Show them. Illyra looked at Jax. For the first time in years, she saw him not as a god, but as a pathetic, hollow mannequin. For us, there is no us. Jax. There is only the thief and the victim. Jax grabbed her shoulders, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper, unaware the microphone nearby was picking it up. Don't play hard to get. You're nothing without me. Who's going to hire a cripple with a bad wrist, fix the suit? And I'll let you come back to the apartment. I'll even let you sleep in the bed this time. The crowd murmured in horror, The live stream chat on the giant screens behind them exploded with rage. Elara laughed. It was a cold, terrifying sound. You think I want to come back, Jax? Look at yourself. She reached out and grabbed the lapel of Jax's tuxedo, the one he was currently wearing. The one he claimed Serena designed. Elara yanked the fabric hard. This suit, it's not Serena's. It's not even new. Jax tried to push her away, but Elara was faster. She ripped the inner lining of his jacket open with a sharp tear. Camera zoom in here. The giant screen focused on the exposed inner lining. There, embroidered in tiny, intricate golden thread against the black silk, were words. Property of Elara Vance. Do not touch. The crowd roared. Elara turned to the audience, her voice ringing clear. I made this suit 3 years ago for his first runway. I hid my name in the lining of every single piece because I knew this day would come. He's been wearing my work, parading it as hers, while treating me like a slave. Serena's face went gray. She turned on Jax, slapping him across the face. You idiot. You told me you burned all her old stuff. You made me look like a fool. Jax shoved Serena back, his facade completely gone. You shut up. You're the one who said you could design. You're just a rich daddy's girl with zero talent. I had to date you to get the funding. You used me, Serena shrieked, clawing at his face. I paid for your teeth. I paid for your hair plugs. You ungrateful leech. They were screaming at each other, tearing at each other's clothes like wild animals. The power couple of the fashion world was disintegrating into a brawl on live television. Lord Sterling watched the chaos with a grim satisfaction. He turned to Elara, who stood calmly amidst the storm. Miss Vance. My jacket is still torn. Elara didn't hesitate. She stepped past the brawling couple. She picked up a spare needle from the kit. She didn't sit. She didn't measure. Using her left hand, her non-dominant hand, she began to stitch. Her right wrist throbbed, but her fingers moved with a blurring speed, a rhythmic dance of steel and silk. In, out, loop, pull, in, out, 30 seconds. That was all it took. She bit the thread to cut it and smoothed the fabric down. The tear was gone. Not just patched, it was invisible. The invisible seam technique that Serena had mocked earlier. Sterling put the jacket back on. He moved his arm. He rotated his shoulder. It was perfect. He turned to the security team, pointing at Jax and Serena, who were now weeping on the floor. Get this trash out of my sight, and ensure every contract Serena Couture holds in this city is terminated by morning. Guards swarmed the stage. Jax reached out for Elara's leg as he was dragged away. Elara, Elara. I love you, I'm sorry, please. Elara looked down at him, her expression as smooth and cold as marble. She didn't say a word. She simply turned her back. Sterling offered Elara his arm. Shall we go? Miss Vance, I believe my private jet is waiting. I have a summit in Paris tomorrow, and I currently have nothing to wear. Elara took his arm, stepping over the broken pieces of Serena's snapped needle. Paris sounds acceptable, but I charge double for rush orders. Sterling threw his head back and laughed a genuine, booming sound. Triple it. Just get me out of here. 6 months later. The Grand Palais, Paris Fashion Week. The massive LED screens outside the venue lit up the night sky, displaying a single name in elegant gold typography, Ilara Vance. Outside the velvet ropes, a man in a cheap, ill-fitting security guard uniform stomped his feet against the cold. It was Jax. His face was gaunt, his hair thinning from stress, and the perfect smile that once graced magazine covers was now hidden behind a gray, unshaven scruff. He wasn't walking the red carpet. He was guarding it. A black limousine pulled up. Jax rushed forward to open the door, hoping for a tip. A woman stepped out, not a celebrity, but a frantic, disheveled figure, trying to push past the barrier. It was Serena. She looked aged by 10 years. Hair designer clothes were gone, replaced by a department store suit that was 2 sizes too big. She was holding a desperate, handwritten sign, "Invest in Serena Couture. We'll work for food." Jax grabbed her arm, his grip rough. "You can't be here, lady. You're on the blacklist. Move along." Serena looked up, her eyes widening as she recognized the man behind the cheap uniform. "Jax, is that you?" Jax flinched, pulling his cap down lower. "I don't know you." "Move." Serena let out a hysterical, bitter laugh. "Look at us. The king and queen of fashion. I'm facing 5 years for fraud, and you're opening doors for people you used to date." Jax hissed, shoving her back into the crowd of paparazzi, who weren't even photographing them. They were aiming their lenses at the limo. "Shut up. At least I have a job. You're a national joke." Before Serena could scream back, a hush fell over the crowd. The limousine door opened wide. Ilara stepped out. She didn't look like a servant anymore. She wore a tuxedo of her own design, sharp, architectural, and terrifyingly beautiful. It was cut from a fabric that seemed to absorb the light, making her look like a shadow brought to life. On her arm was Lord Sterling, looking healthier and sharper than he had in decades. Jax felt his breath hitch. He instinctively stepped forward, his old habits kicking in. Ilara. It's me, Jax." He reached out a hand, his fingers brushing the edge of the red carpet. A massive bodyguard, the head of Sterling's security, intercepted him immediately, twisting Jax's arm behind his back. "Back off. Guard, do you want to lose your badge?" Ilara paused. She turned slowly. Her gaze swept over the crowd. It passed over the screaming fans, the flashing cameras, and landed briefly on the 2 pathetic figures by the barrier. Jax looked at her with pleading eyes. "Ilara. I'm sorry. I can change. Look at me." Serena sobbed, dropping her sign. "Ilara. Please, I'll sew buttons. I'll sweep floors. Just give me a chance." Ilara looked at them. There was no anger in her eyes. There was no hate. There was absolutely nothing. It was the look a human gives to a crack in the pavement, something to be stepped over and forgotten. She turned to Lord Sterling. "Do you hear something?" "My lord." Sterling adjusted his cuff, a cuff Ilara had stitched by hand. He glanced at Jax and Serena with a cold sneer. "Just the wind, my dear. Nothing of consequence." Ilara nodded. "You're right. The wind changes so quickly in this city." She turned her back on them, the train of her tuxedo sweeping across the red carpet. As she walked up the stairs to the Grand Palais, the doors swung open, revealing a standing ovation from the world's most powerful icons waiting for her. Jack slumped against the barrier, watching the doors close. The rain began to fall, just like that night 6 months ago. But this time, he was the one left in the cold, and there was no one coming to fix him. Inside the warmth of the hall, Alara took the microphone. She looked at her bandaged wrist, now adorned with a bracelet of pure diamonds covering the scar. They told me I was just a pair of hands. Alara's voice echoed through the hall, calm and commanding. But they forgot one thing. Hands build empires. And hands can tear them down. She raised her glass. To the new era. The applause was deafening, drowning out the sound of the rain outside, washing away the past for good.